Hello and welcome to Inspecting the World with Worldwide Travel Solutions. And today we are joined by Gaynor from Polar Routes, talking about everything to do with Antarctica, which remains quite an unknown destination for a lot of people, but probably is on bucket lists for a lot of people as well. So we wanted to bring you Gaynor's knowledge and insider tips because she has been there very recently. So handing over to you a little bit, Gaynor, to begin with, how recently was your trip?
So it was March actually last year. So it was not this season, but last season. So I can't believe it's nearly 12 months ago.
Yeah,
It's
I bet.
insane. So yeah, I went in March, the middle of March last year. So and this is actually one of my pictures from the cruise ship. It's just behind me. So
How amazing.
yes,
I mean, I've
yes.
looked through your images and it just looks absolutely breathtaking.
It is one of those places, it's hard to put into words what it's like because it's just, I mean, I've been to, as you know, I've been in travel for many years and I've been to many, many places, but this just tops it. It just tops anything else. It blows everything else out of the water. It's incredible. Everyone's experiences are different when they go, but, I mean, just to wake up and have that scenery behind you and, hear the cracking of the ice and watching the penguins play in the water and seeing the seals and whale. Oh, it's incredible.
I do have
Insane.
some videos that you shared with me to play at the end as well, which has some of the penguins. And I mean, just, I think it's one of those places that you can photograph and video and it doesn't do it justice. It still looks amazing, but doesn't do it justice.
No, I mean some of the pictures that I've shared with you, they are when you're there, it's like you're taking like hundreds of the same iceberg, but it's that incredible that you just can't stop. It's like I can't even put it into words. I
Yeah.
can talk about it so passionately, but it is just seriously one of those places that is just insane. It really is.
So how did you get there? Tell us about the accessibility, how you get there, what sort of group
Yes.
tour or individual tour are you doing?
Okay, so the logistics are basically that you would go to Antarctica through either Argentina in Latin America, South America, or Chile. I did the route through Chile, so we flew from Heathrow direct to Santiago. It's the direct service that they do. Obviously, there's regional airlines that go through Europe to get you to Santiago or Buenos Aires in Argentina. We spent a couple of days in Santiago before we then flew south to a place called Punta Arenas, which is a town in Patagonia. We then had a night there, free cruise. Now, normally there's different ways to do Antarctica. You can either do a cruise from Ushuaia or Punta Arenas that will take you a day and a half across the Drake Passage. Or you can do what I did, and it was a fly cruise. And this image is King George Island in the South Shetlands. And we actually flew there. There's no airport, it's a marine base. And we literally landed and we walked to the shore, and then we had the view of the ship out. And we got little Zodiac boats out to the ship and got on board. So that's how you would access it, through Chile or through Argentina. A lot of people might stop over in Buenos Aires for a few days and they go down to Ushuaia. These are some of the first images of the continent, and this was actually our first day when we experienced a king emperor penguin that you just saw in that last image, which you don't actually get to see in this area at all. So yeah, that's how the logistics of how you get there.
How amazing. And it just looks, I mean, to say first day, what a first day.
Yeah, I mean, we had the whaling shipwreck that you could see in one of the images, and then the king emperor penguin. It was a lost juvenile up on the hill, which was very sad, but It's nature. And then literally within an hour, we had word from one of the other expedition leaders that the expedition leaders are the team that work on the ships, the cruises. And they'd heard that there was a leopard seal that was kind of swimming between the Zodiac boats. So the Zodiacs are like big rubber dinghies, motorized dinghies that fit about 10 people in. So you have a couple of expeditions and then customers. And this leopard seal, I mean, leopard seals are supposed to be very vicious, and it was just swimming between the Zodiacs, getting a little bit familiar, thinking it was a female, I think. But
Oh, amazing. And tell us a little bit about the ship, because obviously the ships are very different to what people probably have in their minds of what they would ordinarily know a cruise ship of. It's not a
yeah,
traditional cruise ship as people would know, right?
yeah, it's expedition cruising, so it's very, very different from ocean cruising. So you know, an ocean cruise line's got, thousands of people. You've got a pool, two pools, slides, rock climbing walls these days,
Yeah.
entertainment teams, several restaurants, several bars. Expedition is when it's done right, it's smaller ships that take between about 100 and 200 passengers. The entertainment team is the expedition team. So you have the captain of the ship who ultimately is in charge of where the ship goes. And then he has a team of expedition leaders. So they're all sort of knowledgeable and experts within certain areas. So you've got glaciologists, you've got penguinologists, experts on penguins, photographers, historians, because there's a lot of history down there as well with
Wow.
Shackleton and, the whaling industry and things like that. So that's the team that take the ship. There's no set itinerary. So, on an ocean cruise, you might be in Rome one day, you might be Venice the next. On this, it's where the weather is, where the wildlife is. So if it's bad weather, they'll move to a certain, a different location. It's where where the wildlife is. They have a plan A, a plan B, plan C, plan D. So you go with an open mind. It's very much about the experience. So if you think along the lines of maybe a safari, when you go on game drives, you have 2 landings a day, which are what we call when you go out on the Zodiacs. So these are the excursions as such, and you don't know what you're going to see on a game drive safari, do you? So it's the same, but in a
Yeah.
boat. That's
Perfect.
the only way I can explain it.
No, that I think that definitely is relatable for sure. And so in an evening, you're obviously having your dinner. And what else do you do in an evening? Is it quite relaxed? Is it quite reserved? Is it early starts? And so therefore you're going to
Yeah,
bed early?
yeah, exactly that. If you think along the lines of safari, so you're up early, you're out, and you to bed early. So, the entertainment is the expedition team. So they might do a bit of a karaoke, there might be somebody on a piano somewhere, there might be one bar, there's only just one restaurant, you sit down, you're very casual, jumpers and jeans. You talk amongst the other guests at what you've seen through the day, and then bed early because you're up early the following day.
Great. And how long do you recommend?
Okay. So there's a few different options. So if you're just going to do Antarctic Peninsula, that itinerary would usually be sort of 2 days if you're going to go across the Drake Passage each way, and then 5 days in the middle doing the peninsula. But then there's other options. You can go further south across the Arctic Circle. Not the Arctic Circle, because that's the wrong place. Antarctic
That
Circle.
would be a long way to
Um,
go.
it would take you longer than a few days. There's also itineraries. So there could be an option to do South Georgia and the Falklands. So that might be 3 weeks. So you're looking between, I would say, 10 days and up to 3.5 weeks, depending on where customers want to go. The full Monty is from Ushuaia to the Falklands, South Georgia, and down to the peninsula and then back across. And that's about just over 3 weeks, 23 days. That would be the ultimate trip.
Okay.
What I did was about 9 days. We just did the Antarctic Peninsula, which was still amazing.
Okay, perfect. And do you have sort of leading prices or guide prices that you could perhaps give an idea of what people would be looking at?
So it's quite hard to kind of pinpoint an exact price, but to just give you an idea, because we are a wholesaler. What we do is like a wholesaler. We work with over 25 different suppliers. There's lots of different standards of ships. There's lots of different itineraries. You might get sort of a lead-in, very basic cruise ship for £5,000 a person, but then right up to your Silver Sea luxury, which is, could be 30, 40,000 pounds a person. So there is a very, very wide difference. Depending on what customers want. On average, I would say probably around about 10,000 per person on
Okay.
the Antarctic Peninsula.
Okay. And that's all in. You're talking flights, you're talking the full duration, you're talking, your board and everything is included, the excursions.
The landings are all included.
Yeah.
When you're on the cruise, it's usually full board. I think
Yeah.
it's just alcoholic drinks. Usually you would pay separate. But your landings, like what you could see on that video there with all the Zodiac boats, they're all included. There's no extras to pay. The only extras that you would pay is if they had, say, a snorkeling course or kayaking, for example, or you wanted to camp out on the ice, for example. So some cruise companies do charge a little bit extra for that. But in general, depending on who you travel with, it can be between, like I said, from £5,000 per person for the cruise element. You would then have to sort of think about flights. So I'd say an average price for an Antarctic cruise would be about £10,000 to £13,000 per person if you were looking at flights, hotels in Chile or Argentina, and then the cruise. But
Perfect.
it is hard to pinpoint because we use so many different suppliers. So from
Yeah,
very
and
basic up to
okay, perfect. And obviously, we have some imagery going on the screen of your images and videos that you shared with us very kindly. Do you have, and I know this is going to be a tough question for you, but do you have an ultimate highlight, the very best thing that you just never forget?
this that you're seeing now was incredible. So we were this close to the humpback whale. So the humpback whale was logging, which is kind of just resting on the water. And then we saw, it woke up and then we had the glacier in the background, the ship, the Zodiac. And it was so, so close to us. And we just got the money shot with it. So for me, that was such a memorable. So that was it. But everything's a highlight. I was on the balcony one morning at like 7 o'clock in the morning. There was a humpback whale just in front of the boat, and there was nobody to share it with. And I was like, oh my God. So you sort of everything that you see is an absolute highlight, Yeah, it was insane. Yeah. I will say as well, another highlight, although I do at the time I didn't think it was I actually experienced jumping into the Arctic Ocean. No, I didn't, because it's keep going north. The Antarctic Ocean, the Southern Ocean, swimming costume, straight in.
Oh my gosh.
It's a rite of passage if you're going to go down there, or the Arctic, for example. So either north or south if you're
How many people
cruising.
did it? How many people did that?
Um, there was probably about 15 of us that did it. You do it one at a time. I mean, it was really scary for me because I have a genuine fear of jumping into water, but yeah, it was pretty cold.
You know what I think would be the scariest thing for me is knowing what's in the water. There's very
Think of that.
much.
Didn't think of that.
Now, aren't you pleased I wasn't there with you?
Yeah, because I wouldn't have done it. I was just thinking of the large vodka that was waiting for me when I got.
I mean, what an experience. It does look genuinely just fantastic. And I do think if it's not already on bucket lists, it absolutely will come. And it's one of those places that unfortunately everywhere on earth is going to end up as a tourist hotspot. And at the moment it's not. So I think getting there before it gets to that point is really
You know what?
key.
I don't think this area is going to get like that. I mean, obviously, there's lots of cruise companies that go down there, but they have so many rules and so many regulations that they only allow so many people in certain areas at once. And I just don't think that's going to go, and the cruise companies respect that. They're really into sustainability and looking after the area, and they do it really well, even with the cruise companies that, that we have all sort of like, different engines that don't pollute and regenerating water and all sorts. It's insane the amount of projects that are down there. So
That's really good to know.
hopefully,
Long may that continue.
yeah, I was going to say hopefully that's never going to change, and the cruise companies respect that, and the government, that look after the area are very adamant in sticking with that. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
do hope that continues because that does sound like, it's absolutely what they need. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for
fascinating.
having me.
No, thank you. And you are going to be joining us again, aren't you? Because we're going to be talking about some other Latin American countries next time. For those of you that are following on the YouTube channel, please wait till the end because we do have these social media channels that you can follow us on. You can hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified when we've got new videos that are coming up. And also our email address is included, info@worldwidetravelsolutions.co.uk. If we have whet your appetite and you're wanting to head off to Antarctica, do drop us an email and we'd be really happy to help. Thank you so much.